Um, so first, we're going to just start out each of the panelists. You can just tell a little bit about yourself and what you do. And Janna, if you want to go first, that would be great.
Sure. So my name is Janna, and a little bit about me. I'm a mom, a wife, an advocate based on my role at work. I went to UK for my master's and Eastern Kentucky University for my bachelor's, which ironically is where I met our co-panelist, Mollie. My family and I are huge EKU Colonel fans and try to attend every football, basketball game that we can in our spare time for fun. And a little bit about what I do. So it's a very long title. I'm the Director of Operations and Prevention Education for Prevent Child Abuse Kentucky. So I oversee the administrative arm of our agency, the arm that handles our programs, trainings, as well as a little bit of our resource development. So how our agency maintains funding, seeks donations, and within that, I get the privilege and the honor to help empower staff and our partners and make sure that our programs are running effectively.
That's great. Mollie, if you want to go to.
I am Mollie Harris, and I am a mother as well. I have received just a semester behind Janna, my bachelor's of social work from EKU. I went on, I thought I wanted to do something different, got a master's in corrections and juvenile and community leadership as well from EKU. And then I went back again and got my master's of social work from EKU. So I currently am the violence prevention manager for Common Spirit at the St. Joseph London Hospital. And through my role, I manage any of our violence prevention programs, as well as a grant that we have that attempts to put programs into the communities, the reduction in child fatalities. And then I'm also a part-time therapist, currently working on my hours to become an LCSW.
Gotcha. Okay, so now that we've got introductions down, we're going to move into a little bit of a discussion on self-care. So I know, like, coming out of the pandemic and just everyone being in school during this time, and just this time of life is kind of stressful anyway. And we know self-care is really important, but how do you all implement self-care into your own lives?
So I think a lot of times in helping professions, like the roles we have, self-care can be hard because a lot of times the work that we do, it's hard to turn off your mind when you have situations where you're worried about children and families and their well-being. So in those types of roles, I think it's really critical to make sure that you separate that work-home life balance to maintain that self-care. So I try really hard to make sure that when I leave work, I have a period of time, like a little transition, where I can get my mind into the role of, okay, leaving work behind and I'm headed home. I think that I have a few friends that, if I'm stressed or if I'm celebrating something, I think it's super important to celebrate your successes and things you're happy about, as well as, a lot of times we pick up the phone to call others when we want to complain or something's going on. But I think it's just so important that you also focus on the happy. If we do that, it helps promote our self-care. So making sure that I call upon those friends, and then through our work, we focus a lot on strengthening families and helping folks that are service providers that work with families and children promote self-care themselves. So I learned a breathing method called the 4-7-8 breathing method, which is you breathe in for a count of 4 and you hold it for a count of 7, and then you let it out for a count of 8. And you can do that over and over. And I started doing that myself, and I have found it to be a very critical tool that I use quite a bit at home, work, driving in traffic, and it seemed to help quite a bit.
I think, as Janna mentioned, especially in these self-helping fields, and where I know that I can speak for myself and Janna, when you put your whole 100 whatever extra percent you can find into your careers, it is hard to take that time. But some of the things Janna mentioned, an excellent technique, and mindfulness is actually something I do and encourage others to do. And then just taking that time, having your support system. Janna said, focusing on the positive, making sure your support system is positive, that you're not constantly dwelling on the negatives or the what ifs or the what we need to do. And then just actually getting outside and enjoying some sunshine.
Yeah, I agree. That's outdoors is usually a peaceful spot for me. Janna, if you want to go first on this one, if you can just give, like, in a nutshell, what is the Pinwheels to Prevention program, and then how can people start to participate?
Yeah, so the blue and silver pinwheel, and the campaign title we refer to as Pinwheels for Prevention. It's the national symbol for child abuse and neglect prevention, and it was chosen purposefully because we want people to think of, when they think about child abuse prevention, we want them to think of healthy, happy children. And so that whimsical image of a pinwheel, you know, is just that. It's a fun thing that people can get behind. And when we think of that pinwheel, you know, we want to make sure that we're making that connection that, you know, child abuse prevention is really healthy families. When families are healthy, when they have their basic needs met, when they're able to handle self-care and manage stress, we know that child maltreatment decreases. So we like the image of that pinwheel because, again, it correlates to that imagery of wanting children to grow up and lead healthy, happy lives. So the pinwheel, you know, we tend to really promote it during April, which is Child Abuse Prevention Month, but I encourage people to promote the pinwheel year round. Think about how, you know, we have these little pinwheel lapel pins that we wear. And if I'm going to pay for my gas at a gas station, I've had people say, what is that you're wearing? And it's a great opportunity for me to talk to them about child abuse prevention and what I do. So during April, during Child Abuse Prevention Month and year round, we know that historically for over a decade now, traditionally, we've seen that people will plant blue and silver pinwheels. They'll plant pinwheel gardens. We see people that have their pinwheels in flower pots. They've made wreaths to put on their front doors. And then they might have signage or some awareness component along with that, sending the message that child abuse prevention is possible when we help strengthen families. And, you know, at Prevent Child Abuse Kentucky, we make those pinwheels available so that anyone can order them. But we also know, you know, it takes money to order pinwheels. So we have two other ways that people can participate that are free of charge. And one of those is you can actually make your own pinwheel. A few years ago, I made a video for Girl Scouts on how to make a pinwheel in my home during the pandemic. I'm sure that video is still circulating somewhere, but you can go to our website at pcaky.org, go to the top to About Us and click Child Abuse Prevention Month, and that'll take you to instructions to make your own pinwheel. And then we have pinwheel coloring sheets where individuals can color their own pinwheel and create awareness that way as well. And so, you know, again, we encourage groups throughout April to, you know, highlight pinwheels that you make or pinwheels that you plant and help encourage community members to learn the messaging. So learn not only that it's Child Abuse Prevention Month, but what they can do to help strengthen the families that they interact with as a neighbor, friend, or family member.
Thank you. Mollie, is there anything you want to add on?
Janna is the pinwheel expert. She answered it in full.
All right, we'll move right along. So now we're going to move into some more, I guess you could say, personal questions. And Janna, you hit on this already a little bit, but just how do you all balance, career, personal life, and passion? And Mollie, if you want to go first too, that'd be great.
It's actually a really good question because I'm still trying to figure out how to do all that. I think that in this role, like, Janna mentioned earlier, just kind of taking that time to separate and to have those moments. One of the things that I do that I did not do years prior in my career is, and I'm just able to because of the position I'm in currently, I don't have my work email on my phone. So after hours, I'm not checking my email. I'm not doing those things. So that gives me a good break, a good balance, like, because you can lose yourself in work very easily. As far as getting to the position, did you go to that far already?
No, but you can hit on it now if you want to.
Okay, you're separating them out. So as far as getting to where I am today, it was just prior work, the education that I was able to obtain, having a diverse background, and it just was the right fit for the position. As far as barriers, I would like to say that I haven't had a lot of barriers in that area. I've had a lot of follow through in the right positions. Networking has allowed me to really overcome any of those barriers that may have gotten in the way.
Gotcha. Janna, did you want to add anything to the question about balancing life, career, and passion?
I think I'll add one thing. I think it's, speaking to a group of young women, you are, you're in a very unique position to where you can be picky about your careers and who you work for. And I think that I'm very fortunate that my employer recognizes the value of self-care and that work-home life balance. So I'm able to make sure that I can be the mom I need to be, that I can support my husband when I need to, take care of myself and my other family members. So I think understanding your worth and making sure that, when you go out there and you start that career, that you're interviewing that employer as well as they are interviewing you. And in the workforce right now, we're struggling to find employees. So I see that there's an uptick or a trend, thankfully, that more employers are putting a value on that work-home life balance. But I would say, even though we see that trend, I would still keep an eye out for that and make sure that folks are really interviewing that employer as they go out and seek that career.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's really good advice. So obviously you all have achieved really great positions because of past experience and, as Mollie said, networking and just the education you've received. But for people who may experience obstacles when trying to reach a position, what advice would you give to them?
I think that it depends on the field that you want to go into. It depends on making sure that that is the right fit for you. And sometimes we don't know that in life until we're already in that field. So I think it's just being on task, making sure that you are keeping yourself in a place that you are able to be happy, you're able to fulfill a good feeling, whatever that may be, in your field of position, and not to be afraid of change. It's always okay to move on to a different position, a different field of education, whatever it may be that fulfills you.
Yeah, I think, as Mollie said, the obstacles can vary depending upon the profession that you go into. But I think something that I might see is that, again, making sure that people understand their own value and their own worth. You're your best advocate. So if you don't believe in yourself, then it's going to make it harder to overcome those obstacles. So surrounding yourself by people that will help challenge you so that you grow, but also that are your cheerleaders. So you feel that sense of, hey, I'm doing this, I'm capable of it, so that you can advocate for yourself and those obstacles that you might need to overcome.
Yeah, I think self-worth and knowing self-worth is really important when going through new chapters of life, things like that. Okay, so talking about leadership, what quality do you think makes a good leader? And is there a particular leader you all look up to? And then if you want to give a reason why you look up to them, or just tell us a little bit about them too, that'd be great. So, Janna, if you want to go first.
It's hard to pinpoint one great leader that I admire or look up to. And I really struggled in thinking of this question. And what I came across were trends and all of the folks that I was really looking up to. And I think that one of those trends that I saw was that they didn't come across as knowing it all. So you could see that they were continued learners, where, you've got these great leaders with this great power, and they're asking the questions of the people around them. So I think that's one quality I admire, is that the understanding of, we're all learning. Even when we're in our 80s, we're learning. And then the other great quality that I admire is somebody that would treat individuals, no matter if they're the janitor sweeping the floors or if they're a CEO of a company, in the same manner. And I've seen that a lot of those folks who I tend to gravitate to and admire tend to have that quality as well. And it's contagious. You can see that the people that they work for tend to be that way too. And it's just, it's a great feeling to be around folks like that.
I think I can agree 100%. There's just so many excellent leaders out there. It is really hard to say there's just one. And Janna brings up some great qualities. I think that to be a good leader, you have to know your people, whether it may be your employees, whether it may be the group that you're leading, whatever it may be. A great leader cannot be afraid to ask questions. And that couples right into the knowledge is power, and always continuing to expand that knowledge, and just having an open door as far as being able to openly not have fear. You can't have fear in a good leader. You have to want and seek that approval, but not in a fearful way, but in a prideful way. I think all those are good qualities of a good leader.
Yeah, I agree. I think, in Girl Scouts, we talk a lot about like servant leadership and things like that. And I think realizing that you are leading, but you're leading to help people, is a purpose you have to keep at the forefront whenever you're acting. So when you're thinking about your all's specific career fields, how would you say your field's changed in the past 5 years? And what do you think will happen in the next 5 to 10 years in your field? Mollie?
I think in the last 5 years, wow, can we even think about where the last 3 years have went? For myself in my career, it involved a lot of home visits, a lot of face-to-face conversations with families, a lot of education that was face-to-face. So, in the last few years with the pandemic, that was eliminated for so long. So the virtual world has taken over. So that has caused a lot of trial and error, learning what works and what doesn't work for your community. So I think that, and I'm sure that Janna's going to touch on this piece. So, but legislation changes frequently. We've had a lot of really good, encouraging things that have passed and have promoted the fields of social work and the fields of many self-helping fields. So I think that we're on an uptick there, and I hope to continue seeing some positivity towards mental health awareness and actually seeing that these are issues that are preventable, as well as these are also need lots of attention and lots of positive workforce to make sure those needs are met.
As Mollie said, I think it's so hard to think back 5 years because the pandemic just threw a big wrench into how I think about the past in those terms. And, you know, we have seen so much of our world go virtual. And with that, now that we have vaccines and we're out and about again and back to in person, we are seeing that what does that mean for the workforce? You know, we went from 5 years ago being out and about and constantly face to face with clients and partners and communities. And now we had to make that shift during the pandemic to virtual. And then now we're seeing the next phase, which is what's next? How is this hybrid going to work? You know, we see that we can have more meetings in a day if we're virtual. We can reach more people across this state. But at the same time, we know there's so much that can be done in that face-to-face contact. And there's you know, a certain level of a sense of belonging and just a lot of great things people can get from being in person. So I see in the next 5 years, I think that a lot of our workforce and social services and nonprofits, we're going to see us continue to explore what that looks like, what that hybrid flow will look like from here. And Mollie hit on this a little bit, but you know, I'm thrilled about several things. One, we've seen more of an emphasis placed on the value of social workers and helping professions. You know, we see that our state employees are getting raises. As I mentioned earlier, you know, there are certain employers in helping fields that are struggling to maintain mental health employees, you know, medical professionals, and a lot of these helping professions. So we're seeing that employers are doing a lot more to retain employees, onboard and bring on new employees, and hopefully, you know, pay them more, value them more. So I hope that that's a trend that we're going to see to continue from here on out. And then most exciting, I think we're seeing that people are having a better understanding of prevention. We're seeing that there are a lot more laws and policies being made that are investing more in prevention. So putting more money on the front end to prevent an issue from occurring versus putting money on the back end to helping fix a problem after it has occurred. So as we see more people understand that notion of prevention, we're seeing a lot more of that focus. And then hopefully the big dream, the big goal is that the more we invest in that prevention, the more people we onboard and believe in it, hopefully we'll see things like child abuse decrease and healthier, happier families all the way around.
And I think that's a pretty noble and hopefully the true future goal everywhere. So we kind of talked about it a little bit, I think, with the Pinwheels for Prevention program, but just in general, how can community members start to get involved with Prevent Child Abuse Kentucky?
So I love this question because coming up on March 27th, we are about to launch a huge movement across the state that's called Lean On Me Kentucky. And what this movement is about is just being there, being a community member, being a friend. So I talk a lot about prevention. And in order to strengthen families, we have to make sure that they have their needs met. We have to make sure that people have folks that they can count on when they need them. And that's what Lean On Me Kentucky is. It's making sure that our friends, our family, people we go to church with, people we go to school with, that we work with, have a support when they need it. And then vice versa, that we ourselves, are able to speak up and ask for help when we need it too. So this movement is the whole idea or concept of becoming a community supporter. And, as an individual, as somebody who might be in middle school right now, being a community supporter for them might be if they see a kid eating alone in the lunchroom, going and sitting by that friend. If they see that somebody's being bullied, standing up for that kid. If it's a neighbor and I see that, my neighbor might have broken a leg and I might be able to mow their lawn for them, all the way to if I want to advocate bigger and think about how I can create a change in my community. So I might identify a need in my community and rally other people to help me fulfill that need, all the way to the big level of if I see issues, if I know issues are not good for families and children, I can advocate and I can try to contact my legislator to make them aware of issues, or contact them if I want them to take up an issue, or if I agree with an issue, or if they're standing for an issue that I disagree with, making sure they know, hey, this is not good for families and this is why. So I think being a part of that movement is one key piece, because no matter if you want to do something on that one-on-one level, on that community level, or that statewide level, the opportunity's there. And then I also think that anyone can go to our website at pcaky.org and they can look at our Commit to Prevent page. Individuals can help educate themselves on what child abuse and neglect is, how to prevent it. We're seeing a huge rise in electronic crimes. So children and youth who might have people on gaming devices, phones, and apps that are trying to inappropriately contact them. So we need a lot more people to be educated on internet safety. If we have new families who want to figure out, how do I choose a safe childcare provider? We've got tools on our website for that. So again, as a community member, you can go to that website, look at that vast array of materials and figure out, hey, I need this in my personal life, or I have a family that might need this, or I can share this in my work. And there's just so many opportunities that I think one size does not fit all, which is why I encourage people, go to pcaky.org, explore, and see all the different ways that, might lead you to be passionate yourself and how you can help those around you.
Wow. Okay, thank you. So the next question is, what advice would you give someone who's interested in a career in a nonprofit or a related organization? Mollie, if you want to start with this one.
I think that to be in the nonprofit world, you have to, and to succeed in the nonprofit world, you have to have realistic expectations. You have to attach yourself to a company, organization that is reputable. And I think that personally, if you are interested in being invested in that world, you need to take a budget class and a grant writing class. Those are two of the biggest, for a nonprofit. Usually, finances are a big deal. Nonprofits may not receive the funding that they need, so you learn to do a lot with a little. And so those two skills will definitely help you expand that and succeed in the nonprofit world.
Was this the question about helping folks if they are interested in a career with a nonprofit?
Yes.
Okay. I really like what Mollie said about grant writing and that business savvy. I think take advantage of opportunities, whether, you're in college and high school, and you have those opportunities through various programs to learn about nonprofits, wherever your passion lies. I myself thought I was going to be a therapist, and I saw an occurrence that I didn't agree with, and I had a professor say, well, have you ever heard of Prevent Child Abuse Kentucky? And I've been here for 17 years. So I wish I would have had more of those experiences of seeing what different work each nonprofit does in local communities and across the state, because I think you might find something you're passionate about, and it might help you shape your future career, because there's so many different great paths that people can take with nonprofits. I think having that passion really helps drive you. So starting there and seeing what your interest is, and taking advantage of those opportunities when you have them.
Yeah, I think for sure early connections can help in the long game, for sure. Okay, so this is our last question for the day, and it is, what do you believe will be the biggest challenge for the next generation of female leaders, and what advice would you give to them as a current leader?
I can take that one first, Janna. So I think that the biggest challenge that I see for the next generation of female leaders, and any leaders as far as that goes, is while the virtual world is fabulous and we are able to extend our reach, save time, we also lose a very important networking skill. And in any field that you go into, any type of position that you want to go into, networking is so important. And so that a lot of the time, a lot of work and relationship building occurs after the meeting is over or before the meeting begins. And that's when you really learn to build rapport and get to know people, and know how that those connections and those could potentially be a part of your team. So I think that is going to be a challenge. How do we get to do that as creatively virtually as we did in person? And I think there's some really great things that are going on in the virtual world that have helped that, but I also see that it's just not the same. So I think that is a good thing. So I think my advice would be just get out and know your community. As a female leader, find confidence in whatever it is, whatever field it is that you want to go into. Find your positive support team and work on your confidence, and make sure that you can walk into a room confidently, knowing what goal it is that you want to obtain, and meet that goal as you walk out the room.
I think one of the challenges I see, especially for female leaders, sadly, I think it's something we face today, and I think we'll continue to face. I think there have been advancements, but, there are, as a female, we have historically been viewed as the main caregiver to communities, and to family units. And I see that those I work with, we have a lot of people that are looking for that caregiving support. You have your family, extended family. As a female leader, you might have staff that are seeking support from you. And with all of that, I think there's a term, what we refer to as burnout. I think you can burn out and you can get overwhelmed with all of that caregiving. So I think one thing that is very important is making sure that, our next generation of female leaders do a lot of what we've talked about, which is self-care, a lot of advocating, and I think helping to shift social norms and continue to shift social norms. that, you know, all persons are caregivers and help out in the community and the family. You know, at Prevent Child Abuse Kentucky, we have a huge emphasis on the role of fathers and fathers in the family and communities. And so I think, again, helping shift those social norms is critical, but I don't see it going away where, you know, female leaders still have so much of that caregiving that they will be expected to oversee, so to speak. So self-care, very important. And I think the other thing, or one of the biggest key pieces of advice that I see, is social connections. You know, you want to make sure that you're putting pieces together as a leader. So who do I need to contact to make sure that we can make this goal happen? But also the other important piece is, who are those contacts that you can have that, again, challenge you, that you have shared experiences with, that you can learn from, that you can share successes with and befriend and have a camaraderie, so to speak. So again, I think that, you know, those social connections and self-care are just critical. So if I had any bit of advice, it would be make sure that you, again, start practicing that self-care as early as you can. You know, for those of you who someday want to become parents, you know, start teaching our kids early the value of self-care. And if you're not doing self-care now, figure out what that looks like for you, so it's something that you're just used to and you're accustomed to.
Thank you, Janna, so much, and Mollie, for being here today and sharing your personal and professional career stories and advice with us. And Olivia, thank you so much for moderating the conversation. You did a fabulous job. It doesn't look like we had any questions come in the Q&A section. So that's our program for today. And again, I just want to thank everyone for joining. And I really hope that all of our troop leaders on here get involved with the Prevent Child Abuse Kentucky patch program that we offer, and work on it during the month of April. Thank you all again, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening.